By evening, Mayor Daley's deepest fear was coming true. 7,000 demonstrators had made their way to the intersection in front of the Hilton.
There were taunts and ugliness. It was designed to provoke. It was designed to arouse. It was designed to show hatred, cursing, anger, fury.
You can't ask us to protest politely so that you can dismiss us. We're going to protest with every fiber of our being. And that kind of sense allows you to go back and put yourself in the way of a billy club.
I really don't know what started the intersection to go up for grabs, but the whole place just went up for grabs.
A half an hour into the standoff, the police began to retake the intersection.
We were ordered to sweep the street and clear the street, and that's what we did. They went any way I could put them into the wagon. Some went easy, some didn't go so easy. And when they don't, then you take them any way that they want to come, which sometimes is not the nicest way, but they'll get in the wagon anyways.
But who were we? We were their sons and daughters. We weren't some invading army from the outside. It was their worst nightmare. We were an invading army from the inside. And I think it's part of what freaked them out.
It was a wild scene. I really thought that the police had lost their cool. They were totally out of control for a while. I thought the protesters were a bunch of fools. And I felt terrible. I thought it was an awful thing to see.
The crowd chanted, "The whole world is watching," convinced that the sight of young people being beaten by police would stir a public outcry. Far above the fighting, on the 25th floor of the Hilton, Humphrey waited for the nominating process to begin. He had survived the minefields of a difficult political season. Now he was in reach of victory.
He's very tense. Everyone knows what's going on downstairs. He goes over to the window a couple times, and one of those windows in the suite was open, and some of that tear gas is wafting up those 20 floors. And you see him go over there and kind of shake his head, and then walks away into his own secret hell.
At 8 o'clock, the delegates gathered to name their presidential candidate.
I came here from San Francisco to talk to you about Hubert Horatio Humphrey.
As the nation focused its attention on the convention floor, the fighting in front of the Hilton subsided. But images of the bloodshed were only now trickling into the broadcast centers.
During the nomination process, the monitors for events around the town started to light up. And I was ignoring it because it was over my shoulder and I had enough to do just trying to control what we were showing of events on the floor. Until Shad Northshield, who was in charge of the outside activities, screamed at me, "Look at these, you son of a bitch." And I turned around, and there was scenes of police beating up kids in a way that I had not seen before.
News executives faced an unprecedented dilemma. Should they cut away from the selection of a presidential candidate to cover an event that had happened earlier that evening?
Do I use this or don't I use this? Is it news or is it propaganda? You know, and I don't have time for a seminar. And finally I decided this was news. And that's what we were there for, and we had to show it. I told Huntley and Brinkley just enough for them to say what was going on.
This is on tape, since again we're not able to cover it live. The tape you're about to see was made about 30 to 40 minutes ago.
And we rolled the tape.
Hubert Humphrey sat helpless as the American people watched his nomination through a prism of violence and turmoil.
I'm sure he must have felt sick at heart that the image being portrayed to the rest of the country was that one of disunity and violence. Obviously, he knew that and knew it would hurt him.
Wisconsin! Mr. Chairman, most delegates to this convention do not know that thousands of young people are being beaten in the streets of Chicago. And for that reason, I request the suspension of the rules to relocate the convention in another city.
Wisconsin is not recognized for that purpose.
The reality for the viewing American people was what they saw via their television screen. And the screen was showing them, at a critical moment in the convention, violence, conflict, disorder.
And with George McGovern as President of the United States, we wouldn't have to have Gestapo tactics in the streets of Chicago.
There was a sense that we were some kind of 1932 Nazi regime enforcing our will in the convention hall with police clubs inside and outside the hall. It was dreadful and added to the public perception that we Democrats could not run a convention, much less a country.
Finally, at 11:20, the balloting began.
Because of the atrocities in downtown Chicago, Georgia's loyal National Democrats cast their votes only with reluctance. That vote is...